Good morning, children. Hope in this grave situation of COVID, you people are all healthy. Today, I start with the first class of physics in 8, force and pressure. What is force? In this chapter, I will be telling you the definition of force, citing you some examples, giving you explanations, and tell you types of force as well as resultant force. Now, an action which may change the motion of a body or precisely push or pull on a body is termed as force. Now you see here two boys, one is trying to push an object, another is trying to pull an object, maybe a lid. Both are forces. Now a force can be expressed by the magnitude and the direction in which it acts. You see here two class 8 boys are trying to pull a rope towards themselves in the either direction. Whichever boy applies more force, the rope will go towards him and he will win. Thus, the resultant force can be termed as the net force acting on a body. It is actually the algebraic sum of the two forces, which means if the force are towards each other, they get added up, and if the force are in the opposite direction, they get subtracted. Also, the net force is directed towards the larger force. Now you see a case of a cart here. See, in the first case, a cart is being pulled by two forces, 60 Newton and 30 Newton, towards one direction. Thus, the cart moves with the sum of the two forces, 60 plus 30 equals to 90 Newton, towards the right, towards both the forces. Now, next case, we see the cart being pulled by two forces, 30 Newton and 10 Newton, on either side. Now, what happens in this case? The force gets subtracted. 30 Newton minus 10 Newton equals to 20 Newton towards the right or towards the greater force, 30 Newton. So, we can conclude that resultant force is the algebraic sum of the forces applied. Now, let's see what effects force can bring. I'll cite you an example of our class itself. You see, a bottle is lying on class 8's floor, and what happens? A boy feels like kicking it. The bottle starts rolling. So what has the boy done? He has brought a stationary bottle to motion. Another boy from either other side, he tries to put his feet and stop the bottle. So what has he done? He has applied another force and brought a moving bottle to rest. Now another enthusiastic boy, he comes from some other side and kicks the bottle, and the bottle moves in some other direction. So what happened? The force has brought in a change in the direction of the object. Now two of the boys feels like kicking the bottle together with a greater force. Hence the bottle starts rolling with a greater speed. So we here see that force can also change the speed of the body. Someone else intervenes and picks up the bottle and squeezes it with both the hands. Thus what happened? Force has changed the shape of the body. Hence we can recapitulate it as the effects of force can be, force can move a stationary object, it can stop a moving body, it can change the speed of the moving body, it can change the direction of the moving body, and it can as well change the size and shape of the body. Now these examples will make the point clear. The example of the lawnmower, which was at rest and has been brought to motion by the man. The cyclist, he pedals faster and brings the cycle to a greater speed. Now footballer uses a force from some other direction and changes the direction of the ball. And a baker, he applies pressure on the force on the dough and rolls it into a big chapati or say curry puff. Now we come to different types of forces. Forces are basically of two types, contact forces and non-contact forces. Evident from the term itself, force which can be applied only when it is in contact with the object are called contact forces. Examples are muscular force, friction. Now, force which can be applied without contact with the object, without touching it, are non-contact forces. Say magnetic force, electrostatic force, force of gravity. Now, in the first case, muscular force. Muscular force only comes into existence when a muscle touches some object and applies force. So, it is a contact force. Frictional force is a couple force which comes into existence when an applied force is there between the two surfaces under contact. Hence, it is also a contact force. But in the case of magnetic force, a magnet, if it is at a distance also from another magnet or some magnetic object, it will apply a force on the object and pull the object towards itself or repel it. So, it is a non-contact force. Electrostatic force, the force between charged bodies. You see, in this case, two charged bodies near to each other but not in contact may be pulled towards each other or repelled away from each other. So, this is also a non-contact force. Force of gravity, the force with which the earth pulls us towards itself. Now, you see, we are away from the earth but being pulled towards the earth. So, the objects and the earth is not in contact, but even then there is a force between them. So, they are non-contact force. I need to mention here that magnetic force and electrostatic force may be repelling forces or attractive forces, but gravitational force is always attractive. Now, here there are few examples. You see, muscular force, two boys trying to push a heavy box with the force of their muscles. So, they are contact force. Again, the box is in contact with the surface and thus the negative force of friction acts on it. Now, in third case, a magnet being even away from the nails attracts them from a distance, hence they are non-contact force. And electrostatic force, often you have tried to rub a comb on your head and try to pick up bits of paper. This is an example of an electrostatic force, and this is also a non-contact force because the bits of paper and the comb were never in contact. Now, third case, the last case, the balls or the apples maybe, they are falling towards the earth and thus they are away from the earth but being pulled by the earth. So, they are also non-contact force. Now, based on this now, you will be writing questions given in the PDF. Thank you children for being patient and listening me.